Well, before I had a really nice planned out video to show you on the second part of this plating, and I got to thinking about it and I thought, that looks really nice, but this is a really good coating, especially because I had to kind of wire brush this to even out some of the plating. And even though it looks great, I thought, is it going to do what I need it to do and keep it from looking like this? So I got pondered on the situation and thought, I need to test it. Now, this is one of the new handles that started rusting, and that's when I found out it wasn't plated with anything. And I'm looking at the plating to be a rust preventative. So I thought, I wonder how good this coating really is. So I came up with a way to test it. I went and got an old sprayer and put some water in it and filled it full of some of this canning salt. And last night, before I went to bed, I sprayed it on some test articles. And I wasn't very happy with what I found. Now, this one here has no coating whatsoever on it. It's just the polished steel. And basically didn't do too good. This one had 30 minutes of nickel on it, the very first coat, and that's one spray of salt water left overnight on it. It looks like it didn't do worth a darn. Now this one has a flash coat of nickel, a coating of copper, and then two other coatings of nickel on top of the copper. And it did the best, but it's still not perfect. So just as a test, I went and I sprayed this piece of nickel down not too long ago. And I was wondering to see if there's any impurities in it that would make it rust. And we'll find out about that tomorrow morning when it's had the same amount of time. But this made me feel pretty, these results aren't what I wanted. I like for it to look nice, but you know, things happen in life. Like all of a sudden I had a massive heart attack. I ended up away from here 5 days. I came home and my oil recovery unit had sprung a leak on the bottom and oil was everywhere. What if I get in the hospital or can't be here for a month? What if I decide to go fishing in Canada? There's not anybody here to spray these things down with oil all the time. And that's why I wanted to either have it a nice painted coat or something like what I thought nickel would make it hold up to. So I've either got to find a new way to make this look better. And this may just be a surface. I doubt it. You know, probably rubs off and polishes up real nice, but I need to figure out what I can do to make this a better coating. I got to looking at this head I'm rebuilding, and there's all kinds of things that will look really nice plated, like this little lever right here, the end of this little handle, this nut. There's 15 or 20 pieces that I like to protect. So I don't know what or where I'm going to go from here. What I think I'm going to do is go back to the beginning and try to coat this with copper. Now, I read all your comments, and there are so many comments coming in that contradict what other people have said that you're kind of going, what do you believe? That's why I usually test things like this. I'm going to leave a link to the person that says you can't copper coat steel very easily. You know, at least with the equipment I've got. But I'm going to take this piece, go back to plain steel polish on it, clean it off real well. You know, one person says you can't use brake clean to clean it to get all the oil off before you do it. Another person says you got to use muriatic acid to etch it. Well, I guess you get what you pay for on YouTube. Just got to figure it out yourself. I did find something interesting. This is one of the original handles, and I took and polished it all off and put it in the bath for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I think it was, and sprayed it down, and it's still flash rusting in those areas. But these handles came with a bushing. The replacement handles from H&W don't have bushings. They're all the right size. And I got to look at this bushing because I wanted to take it out. And it wouldn't press out, so I got to looking at it. And inside here, I don't know if I can, let me see if I can get the little camera to make this happen. But inside here, let's see if we can get a light on the subject. You can look in there, you can see a hole in the middle of that. And then there's another one right there. Of course, it's got a keyway. And over here's another hole. Now, I have no idea why you need, no, there's 4. I have no idea why you need 4 holes in there. You know, usually you see something like that, it's for oil holes. So I got the other one out, and I started playing with it, and the handle was loose, and I twisted it, and the handle came off. And inside the shaft over here is a plunger, and it's spring-loaded. And it comes through that little hole right there, which lines up with that bushing. A pick here, and I'm sitting there wondering how in the heck they made this. On the end of this, you could see there's a cap. So they had to drill through the end of that. And if you put a pick in here, you can play with this. And that is spring-loaded. I don't know if you can see. Trust me, I wouldn't lie to you. So once that handle's in position, it pushes this peg through there. I don't know if I can do that or not. I might have to, if I do this, I'd have to come in from the other side to push it down. I might need 14 hands here. Get that in there. There. If you turn this handle, it kind of gives a little bit. And I don't know if that's why they wanted to do it. But if you can do this, you can see that plunger coming out. Is that a quick release system so that you could do this to the plunger, lock it in place, twist it here, and then be able to rotate the handle to another position on that bushing? Frankly, I don't see why you'd ever need to do that, but that's exactly what's happening. As I rotate that handle, it goes back in and would allow you to do that. But then you got a handle over here that if you grab hold it and do the monkey on it, it's going to come off. That way it slips completely out. Where it's locked in position, the plunger is up out of the shaft here and wouldn't hold on to the bushing. Now, I haven't even tried to see if this was the same way. This one isn't. This one doesn't have that handle on it. It's just no bushing whatsoever. But this one does. Of course, the handle's locked up, so I can't turn it without messing with it. And I would even say that somebody has peened that over to where that handle won't turn. Must have got tired of the handle falling off. Does anybody know? Like I was saying, there are people all over the internet showing you how to do this. And I realize that there's better ways of doing it in industry where, you know, you're plating a lot of parts. But unfortunately, that's become cost prohibitive to send these off and do them. Nobody wants to do little parts anymore. So I'm kind of stuck. I'm going to ask you one more time for help. Does anybody know of a good coating that we could put on these handles that won't allow them to rust in case I have to go to the hospital or want to go fishing for a while? Let me know. Until then, I'll just play here with my chemistry set. That's weird. Tell you what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to clean this off. And instead of brake cleaner, I'm going to put some acetone on it. That'll clean it off. That's got a coating of nickel on it that I wire brushed it off to make it look like this because it was kind of dull in spots. It looks great. I just don't think it's going to last very long in an environment where it'll keep it from rusting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another flash coat of copper on here. Now the last one I did was this one. I tried putting it on this one before and I forgot and I left it in the solution and all the copper that had gone onto it was down here. And I tried doing this with bare steel. I got the copper on it and it looked good, but you could wipe it off with your finger. It didn't stick or bond to it like the nickel has. So let's see what we can do. Need some acetone. When I put these things in the solution and give them a good soak in it, it does build up layers of plating on it. And I think the plating layers kind of go on uneven when you do it that way. Come on. So, trying to make this where tell you what, I went and bought some more of these to get a little bit deeper into that solution. Man, I stuck that in there and it's got a copper tin on it already. Huh. I was just sticking it in there for a little while. So what I'm going to do, this is white vinegar. I know it's a mild acid. And I know that I also eat it with oil and vinegar on my Subway sandwich. Of course, I've altered it a little bit. By putting copper in it and electricity and salt. So who knows what kind of harmful stuff it does to you. Now that's the stuff that was left over and fell off of the part after I went and let it sit there too long with no electricity. I'm going to top this off with pure vinegar again. And to make this solution, you put salt, white distilled vinegar into this. Nobody has ever said anything about putting any water into it. And then you put the electricity to it. So now that's pretty well covered. If you look in there, you can still see the copper color on it. It's I got a whole bunch of video that I turned green on us from being in there. I'll take a stainless steel brush and clean this off a little. But better yet, even though it is coming off, I'm just going to put a new piece in. Here's a better piece. Negative and positive. Someone even said I needed to run insulated wires down to the level of the liquid. I don't know why that would make any difference. I haven't seen any platers doing it like that anywhere. change the voltage down. That's amps. Back to 12 volts. Four amps. And even though I've set it for 12 volts and 4 amps, this machine at the constant voltage here has reduced the amps to 0.5. So I'm going to increase the voltage to get the amps up to at least 3. We'll let it change on its own. I've noticed that as the copper gets plated a little bit and things change here, the voltage in amps go up and down. Let's turn to bronze color there. I'm going to let this go for 20 minutes and then we'll see what happens. Turn on the vent fume and get out of here. One thing I didn't do when I added more of the vinegar, I didn't add more of the salt solution. So quickly, I'm going to take this out, put some more salt in it, my handy dandy salt spatula here, and see if that'll help. Let's turn you off for a minute. Because if you notice, I'm getting a lot of bubble action up here, but not down here. Now, my electrode, or my anode, I guess doesn't go all the way to the bottom, but it goes all the way down to here, so it shouldn't be that bad. Let me just see if I need a little more salt. When I was first playing around with that, I noticed I did. You might notice it's got a little brown tint to it, or a lot of brown copper tint to it. It's not shiny, just kind of burnt copper looking. All right, let's turn it back on, see if that did anything. Getting a little bit more down in that area, but look at the voltage. It's climbing with time. voltage is climbing with time, and it switched to constant current instead of constant voltage. Now, I have no idea how this thing changes from those two values. It doesn't say a darn thing about it in the instruction manual. I'm going to turn on the vents so it'll blow away the fumes. So just climbing right up there. So now I'd like to keep it at 12 volts. And it changed to constant voltage then. Increase the amps. Doesn't do a darn thing. In fact, it might even be going down. The only way to get the amps up is to increase the voltage. And since I only have one strip of copper in there, I'm going to turn this around. We're about halfway through the 20 minutes. Okay, it's been 20 more minutes. And as you notice, I'm knocking off little flakes here. Got a rusted looking. Go wash it off with some well water. It's a little darker. Now as I was washing it off, I kind of brushed it off with my hands. As I'm doing all this stuff, I was sitting there wondering about, like chrome plating and stuff like that. And I seem to remember even chrome can rust up. I think it's all having to do with the porosity of the coating. So now this is a thin coating here now. I don't have any grease on my hands. I really cleaned them with soap before I cleaned it off. I wonder what acetone would do to it. It's not coming off with acetone. And I didn't get any acetone on my hands. Let's put the copper out of the way and slide this back over. Nickel. So I've been using this copper compound. Things have been getting greener and greener and greener, so I've got a pretty good idea it's loaded up with nickel. Just let that go for 20 minutes. I'm going to try very hard not to put a coating on this thing that I have to wire brush off to make even. I'm just going to say 30 minutes and then we'll be done with it. And 20 minutes into the second coating. Let's pull it up, see what it looks like out of the water. I'm going to switch. I don't remember if this is called the anode or what. I'm going to switch it. I'm getting rid of the nickel on there. We'll put it on this side now. This is what that one started off as. Get it back in the water right. Put a little clip on it, hold it over. Volts, 3.26 amps. Well, for those of you that have stuck through this video this long, I'm about to put you out of your misery. I'm calling this video done. I finally came up with a method that I like and could get repeatable results. One of the problems that I've had throughout all of this was figuring out times for putting it into the solution and the current and the amperage for it and trying to get a thicker plating. Well, I found out that with this setup and me, it was almost impossible to keep going plating after plating after plating, different layers on. And I found out that after I plated it about 3 times, I would wire brush it and it looks great. Now, a lot of the plating or the nickel came off during the wire brushing. It didn't want to bond really well. And I tried muriatic acid at one time, I tried acetone, I tried plate cleaner, aseptic technique, so it didn't touch anything. I never really could get a plating to go on after the first couple. It was just too much. And to try to even out the finish, I would wire wheel it on my buffer, and I got a really nice finish, and it looks really great, but it did take off some of the layers that I had put on. And I'm just going to call those excessive layers. I don't think I really need it. Now, I was really worried about corrosion after I tried the saltwater test and showed that even with the plating on it, I was still getting a little bit of rust in some areas. Well, I got to thinking about old trucks I've had throughout my life, and down here in the South, sometimes things rust. All the time they rust. Well, I've had some bumpers over the years that got rust on them, and if I kept them polished and waxed and chrome cleaner on it, they lasted fine. So that's what I'm going to do with this. I've taken and did some research, and I found 2 or 3 waxes or polishes that work good on metal, nickel especially. And I've got some French metal polish coming that's got some carnauba wax in it, that hopefully that'll seal all of those little pores that if there are any, and make it to where I don't have to do much upkeep. I really like the color of it. It's going to look great. I can buff up all kinds of little parts on there, and I can dunk them in that tank that I've got going, and it really comes out nice. So it took a lot of polishing with the buffing wheel to make what you're going to see, the final product. But with a coat of nice metal polish wax protected, I think they'll be just fine. You might notice in this picture that I have 6 handles that move the table. 3 of them, the little teardrop shape on the edges or on the handle part, are the original ones, and 3 of them are the new ones from H&W. I went ahead and stripped them all and coated them all, and it looked really good. I just don't know what I want to put back on this machine, the originals or the new ones. I'm not really a stickler for keeping it all the same parts. Who knows if those were the same parts in the first place, and we'll just see. So thank you much for watching. Thanks to all the people, the members and everybody else, and hope I don't bore you too much. Well, there's the fruits of my labor. I even started doing the nuts that hold the head on. Well, there's the fruits of my labor. I even started doing the nuts that hold the head on.